Hey everyone, in this video I'm gonna talk about the backend technologies that you need to become a good developer or just land a job. So when it comes to backend, there really is not much you need just in general. Most of the developers that I know I have worked with, they only know a few things, but they have they have the experience and they've worked on plenty of projects using that small set of technologies, and they're just really good at that. They have been just sharpening those couple of things, sharpening their tools for a while, and if they want to pick something else, they will be able to easily pick anything, like any new technology they like. So like I said, for backend there is not much to learn as a base, as a foundation. um, So the first thing that comes to my mind that a backend developer should know is JavaScript. JavaScript is used everywhere. It really doesn't matter, the foundation for whole front end and all the libraries, all the front end frameworks and all that are based on JavaScript. But it is also a technology that backend developers use a lot. So a lot of the times you're gonna have to query, sorry, not query, you'll have to retrieve the data from the backend server, and you'll have to do that yourself because the data set is just so complicated. When the front end guy retrieves that data, they're not going to know what to do with it, but you as a backend developer will understand the data set, and you will uh, be able to utilize that data on the front end page. So as a backend developer, it's really important that you know a good bit of JavaScript actually, and you are just gonna use it non-stop. It's not like backend developers are not gonna touch something that runs on front end. That does not happen, at least not in the industry right now. You get a job as backend, you are expected to know JavaScript because you are actually gonna use it. And JavaScript is obviously, I'm not gonna say it's an easy language to learn. Any language is easy when you're just starting off. When you start working on bigger sites, more complicated concepts, or products that you don't have much knowledge of, or just the concepts are too complicated, that's when you're gonna be really tested. That's when you realize that JavaScript is not, it's not an easy language to learn. I mean, no language is easy. So as a backend developer, you're gonna have to learn JavaScript. You're gonna be using it a lot, but obviously, you get to a certain level, couple of years in your career, 7, 8, 10 years, and you're just working on these services. You're just writing backend logic, just API responses, REST API, whatever. And at that point, maybe you don't need JavaScript, but as a foundational language, you need to know it. And anyone with a couple of years of experience, 6, 7, they are expected to know JavaScript. Obviously, like I said, you go down in your career higher and higher, then maybe you can forget about JavaScript because you're sort of a specialist with the backend, and you're really good at that. So you're gonna have people around you who are expected to know JavaScript. So you're sort of leading the team, or you dealing with other things like architecture, the system. So JavaScript is really important, and don't let anyone tell you that you don't need it, because you are gonna need it. You can literally go to a job search site right now. You can go to Indeed, Read, or Total Jobs, CW Jobs, any site. Type in backend developer, you are gonna find job roles asking you to know JavaScript, and that's just that's just a fact of life. Just learn JavaScript, and um, don't worry about um, the jobs that don't need it, because they're gonna be very high level jobs paying 80K, 90K, 70K. So don't worry about that for now. Just learn JavaScript. That's one technology you need to learn as a backend developer. Now, the actual backend technology that you are obviously expected to learn, and there is no question about this one, is SQL. SQL is used to retrieve data from the database. So if you have that organized data in a relational database, let's say you have a database of sales, you might have a product, and then that product is going to have orders, and you're going to have some sort of connection between orders and the user or customer who purchased that order. And you might have other things like analytics, keeping track of who's purchasing what. And that's the whole purpose of SQL. You have the database, you can use SQL to retrieve the data, display it on the front end, or manipulate the data, insert the new data into it, or update. So SQL is really important, and it's just like JavaScript in a sense, where it's not gonna go anywhere. 10 years from now, you're still gonna be using SQL. All the big system, the foundation of them is the database, and to get that data, you can't use JavaScript or something like PHP. You need to use SQL. So learn SQL, learn a little bit about the databases as well, try to understand complex database, and that should be good enough. Then the third technology is obviously a backend technology again, which is either uh, Python, PHP, or anything that runs in the backend server. So you start with JavaScript, then you have SQL, and then obviously you have PHP, Python, something that runs in the backend. So there is a difference between a technology. For example, PHP is a backend programming language, while SQL is very specifically used to retrieve data from the database server. So there's a difference there. So you'll know SQL, then learn PHP or Python or anything else. You can pick anything else that's popular right now. And those are the three things you really need as a backend developer. Obviously, you start working on these technologies. You think you're experienced enough. You build a few projects, then um, pick a framework. Django is backend framework, is Python. It's related to Python. Then you have Symfony for PHP. Another framework, you can pick any framework. Just learn these three technology. Learn JavaScript, learn SQL, and learn the backend technology. And you can pick a framework later on. But these are the foundational technologies for any backend role you're gonna find. So if you're gonna go apply for a role tomorrow and you wanna be a backend developer, then this is what you're gonna need. You can forget about everything else when you're starting off. Just focus on these three things. And to be honest, you can literally go ask anyone who's experienced. They're gonna say the same thing, unless you're asking a guy who hasn't um, worked in a company and they're just sharing these random roadmaps with 100 different technologies that you need to know. That's bollocks. You don't need that. Obviously, there's smaller things like HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript libraries. Maybe you might want to learn someday, but that's it. As you progress a bit further, you can dig a little bit into other things like how does the layers of TCP work, how does HTTP work, what verb is used when. You can dig into those things, but three things: learn um, JavaScript, learn SQL, and learn a backend language. Then pick a framework. It should be good.